Ibis will kick things off today, telling us about early house churches as described in the New Testament.
The most important room in Christendom is the upper room located in the southern part of the old city of Jerusalem, and it is best known as the traditional site where the Last Supper was held. Scripture indicates that the early church met in private homes in several locations rather than church buildings. Peterson points out that house church gatherings usually took place in the upstairs dining room, such as the upper room. The size of home-based gatherings was determined by the wealth of the host. Wealthier people were able to accommodate a group of 40 to 50, while modest homes may have been able to accommodate groups of 10 or less. House churches played a vital role in the growth and ultimate success of Christianity, and it is safe to say that Paul's ministry was established through the house church movement. House churches maintain a family life-like atmosphere. Throughout the books of the New Testament, such as Acts and Romans, and so on, every mention of a local church or church meeting, whether for worship or fellowship, is a reference to a church meeting in a home.
And that was Ibis describing early Christian house churches for us. And on to Elizabeth, who will show us one of the earliest Christian churches in the ancient city of Aqaba.
Off of Jordan's only coast lies the ancient port city of Aqaba, which houses one of the earliest Christian churches in existence. The geographic location of Aqaba provided Romans with unique port access that encouraged economic prosperity within the region. Since 1998, when the Roman Aqaba project discovered the early church, archaeologists have excavated the remains under the sandy dunes. When visiting this remarkable discovery, expect extreme heat and don't be too surprised to see the ancient church's archaeological site nestled in between roads and apartment buildings. As your gaze shifts from the housing structures in desert landscape, you will see a 26 by 16 meter structure appear of reddish-brown mud brick on stone foundations. Arched doorways and vaults can also be seen along with walls that were decorated with painted plaster. If you are standing in the middle of the site, the red-brown foundations will surround you like a maze, and you will see cutouts of what look to have been doors. The construction of this ancient structure is estimated to date back to the late 3rd century, making it one of the oldest Christian churches, and its size indicates that a large Christian population lived in the region. While the structure was likely to have been badly damaged after an earthquake, remnants of a staircase made of stone has led archaeologists to believe that a second story most likely existed.
And that was Elizabeth showing us around one of the earliest Christian churches. And moving on to Antonio, who's going to show us around one of these early house churches.
We are now looking at one of the first Christian house churches with the earliest baptistry in the city of Dura Europos, which was abandoned around the year 256 AD.
The Roman-controlled city was attacked by the Sancians with sulfur and other flammable oils. After the Sancians took over, they quickly abandoned it, allowing for the preservation of what was left. Houses in Dura Europos were donated and turned into churches, which was how the first house church came to be around the year 240 AD. The reasoning behind converting houses into churches was because Christians were persecuted for practicing their religion and needed to do so in private. What made the Christian church different from other houses was that it had a small room which was added to create the baptistry. The baptistry was a small room with a vault big enough to hold one person to perform the baptism. The baptistry was decorated with Christian paintings such as a painting of Christ as the Good Shepherd, the Samaritan woman at the well, Christ walking on water, Christ healing the paralytic, and the woman visiting Christ's tomb after the resurrection. It was discovered in between January and February of 1932 by Clark Hopkins, an archaeologist from Yale. Removal and transportation of the paintings to Yale was completed in November of 1932, and efforts to preserve the paintings have taken place.
Alright, Antonio, everyone, with one of the early house churches. And on to Andrew in the Basilica di San Vitale in Rome.
In the early ancient Roman streets of Vicus Longus, a small minor basilica church by the name of Basilica di San Vitale was born. This church served as a dedication to Saint Vitalis' son, as its Gervase and Protes, who were martyrs in the early 5th century. This particular dedication was dated back to around 412 AD. The church itself, however, was erected and originally consecrated at the start of the 5th century. At approximately some 401 AD by Pope Innocent I. Now, upon entering the church, take note that the outer porch, also known as the portico, is among the oldest area of the church. In fact, there are still portions of it consisting of the original material used when it was first built. However, it is worth noting that since its original creation, the church has been significantly reduced in size, on the order of Pope Sixtus IV. This mass remodeling was done prior to Jubilee in the year 1475, and was likely a precaution due to the fact that many of the original archways of the church and the naves, or the central gathering areas, had seemingly fallen into a state of disrepair. This being said, upon entering the church, you'll notice that there's a single nave with much of the art on the walls depicting scenes of martyrdom. Currently, the layout of the church consists of a single nave with no arcades, which would be a series of archways. As you progress deeper, you'll notice two pilasters with missing capitals near the triumphal arch. These pilasters were likely placed there sometime in the 12th century, and on both ends of the chapel you will find two side altars enclosed by an arrangement of Corinthian columns. Sometime later, during the mid-19th century, Pope Pius IX built a staircase leading to the original portico.
And that was Andrew coming to us from Rome. Now on to Anna in St. Peter's Basilica to wrap us up.
Old St. Peter's Basilica is said to be constructed around the year 320 during the ruling of Emperor Constantine. The basilica was built atop a cemetery, with the church's altar directly above the tomb believed to belong to St. Peter himself. Having the church close to the remains of a holy saint made the site more spiritual, as well as the relics within. As you can see in this drawing of Old St. Peter's, the church was over 350 feet long, with a gabled roof over 100 feet high. Also pictured is the central aisle leading down to the apse, the side aisles, and the clerestory windows at the top. There was also a baptistry attached to the church, which can be seen in the floor plans. The church had the capacity to fit 3,000 to 4,000 people at once.
And that was Anna from St. Peter's Basilica, and that concludes our tour of ancient Christian churches.